Welcome to Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul. Adam Freeman coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. And I have with me tonight the head women's basketball coach, the assistant men's wrestling coach, the head men's golf coach, father of six, and president of the Jared Garantano fan club with us, Paul Reese.
Thank you.
Man, I tell you what.
Every one of them is true except the last one.
Oh, truth hurts, big boy. We'll maybe get into that a little bit later, but man, we gotta talk about just what transpired the last 3 weeks, culminating last night in the Dodgers' first World Championship since 1988. Since I was a senior in high school, Paul. Since I was 16 years old, man. I mean, I can remember exactly where I was. I was at a friend's house with a bunch of people, and we were watching it. And I think, of course, as always, I was the only Dodger fan there. And once it went down and once it happened, I was the only one celebrating, and I was fairly obnoxious about it, and I was asked to leave. So that's what I remember. And contrasting to last night, and we'll get into that later on. But last night I was sitting alone in my man cave watching it, and we got that last strike. And it's so great to do it on a strikeout. I think that's the ultimate exclamation point. To win a World Series is to get that last out on a strikeout, and to get it on a strikeout looking. That was just awesome. So I was silently fist pumping and doing my best Julio Arias impersonation right here in my own home here in Ackworth, Georgia. But it was great, man. Immediately, first thing I did this morning, once I got out of a million meetings that I had on Zoom, because we're asynchronous Wednesday, got right on MLBshop.com and got my World Championship World Series 2020 Dodgers t-shirt. Shall be arriving shortly. So, party like it's 1988. One thing that's interesting though, Paul, is, and you'll have to correct me on this because you're the big NBA guru. When the Lakers won, because California's pretty much kind of still in a lockdown situation. When the Lakers won, was there craziness that happened, like rioting and stuff like that?
I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know about rioting, but I did see a funny video, and I don't know if you're going that direction or not.
I'm going no direction. I have no direction. That's part of my charm.
So I guess they obviously had some big crowds gathering in certain spots. And somebody had set off some fireworks in the middle of this big group. And it just so happened that a car, a souped up car, was doing donuts around the fireworks as they were going off.
Street racing banned in the ATL.
So it was when you say it was partying like 1988. So that as this car was doing some donuts around the fireworks, it actually got out and actually ran over the fireworks as it was going off and set the car ablaze. In what would be typical LA, California fashion, as it got out of control.
Oh, quickly, huh? So no burning of couches, turning over of.
I did see a lot of people running out of a Walmart with a lot of TVs, but I'm not sure if that coincides with Los Angeles Dodgers victory or not.
That may have just been a Tuesday night in LA. Who knows?
It could have been.
The reason I ask is because it just seemed like, everything was kind of confined to the field, and you didn't really hear anything on, all the talk shows about anything like that going on. And I was going to kind of contrast, like, NBA championships, typically it's a different crowd. You know what I mean? It's a different fan base between baseball and basketball. Would you agree with that? I mean, it's a totally different mindset and just kind of reaction. And I don't know
Are you
why that,
saying they're?
what.
Oh, I was going to say, are you saying they're more? There's more etiquette people, right? Because there's so many. Baseball has these so many unwritten rules, right? And so you have to be well knowledged, well versed in baseball. As the NBA fan, is a different type of fan, like you're talking about. I don't know how that plays out, but yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I got to get rid of this video filter. It's killing me.
Well,
I can't.
congratulations.
It's well. Let's see, and that goes to your part. Like I'm not a flashy guy. Okay, I'm not a blingy guy. I'm not a walk around sunglasses guy. I'm a simple guy. I don't need so the sunglasses weren't working for me. I couldn't do it anymore. But yeah, I just think that it's the in speaking to the etiquette of the fan. You're not going to see like you're going to see. It's more of the celebration and the like a parade type deal. That's kind of more your baseball traditionalists, which I don't know that they're going to get a parade. I mean, I'm sure the Lakers didn't get one, so I'm sure they won't get one either.
No.
Which is
Well, it, it's a thinking man's game, right? And as we will probably eventually get to the Kevin Cash situation,
oh
sometimes you
boy.
overthink things and it can stab you in the back.
Yeah, and we are going to get to that later tonight on Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul. I want to encourage everybody to check us out on our Twitter at D Through Sports, and also listen to us. So we have a YouTube channel, Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul, and all of our episodes are on there as well as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeart, and Spotify. And Paul, the whole theme party like it's 1988. You know, I mean, I've been a Dodger fan since 1977 when I met Steve Garvey in St. Louis. That's been well chronicled in our shows. And I have sat through some 100 loss seasons. I have, along with all of Dodger Nation, dealt with, us trading away players like Adrian Beltre, who's a Hall of Famer because they didn't want to pay him, and all this sort of stuff, and unrealized potential of the last couple of years, the cheating scandal, all that stuff. This is just such vindication for everybody. And you want to put an asterisk on this year, that's fine. Here's your asterisk. We won 13 games instead of the traditional 11. Okay, that's all you need to know right there. Okay. So all these people that want to put an asterisk on it, there's your asterisk right there. 13 is greater than 11. It was the most difficult path that any team in the history of baseball has had to go through. So they won games, hitting home runs. They won games with pitching. They won games with defense. They won games playing small ball. They won games every way you could win a baseball game.
And lose games.
And they lost games every way you could lose one as well. Which again, I can remember, just a couple days ago, of course, my phone, my phone only blows up when my teams are doing poorly, right? So all my buddies, they love to give me a hard time about this. So game 4, it's blowing up, right? And it's really blowing up after that debacle at the end. And after that, I thought, okay, we were like right there, ready to go up 3-1, and now it's 2-2. And looking at the pitching and all this sort of stuff, how this is going to match up, and emotionally coming off of something like that, I honestly told one of my friends, I said, I do not know how we come back from this. I do not know how we come back from this and win. And I give credit to Dave Roberts, as much as people rag on him and gave him a hard time for the last last 2 World Series, 17, 18, and then last year's playoffs that they got eliminated in the division series. He made the right moves last night, and he obviously said something to that group after that game 4 loss, and they got focused and they were ready to play. And I think it helped them with this new format. And that's another thing about your asterisks. when there were no days off. So this was totally, totally different in terms of how you had to manage the situation with your pitching and all that sort of stuff. But getting back to that, being able to play the very next day, which normally that would have been a day off where you'd had time to kind of like percolate on what you lost and how you lost. They were able to get right back out on the field and redeem themselves. And I think that was huge for them. And pitching, of course, Kershaw was great. He didn't have his best stuff, but he pitched out of jams and he was able to get the win. And he was 4-1 in the postseason, which should put to bed all the rumors of him underperforming in the postseason. I mean, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer in my book. So that leads us to, I talked about the on-field celebration, and it did include everybody, including Justin Turner, who was removed from the game for Edwin Rios in the 7th inning, and nobody seemed to know why until after the game. And it was on Twitter, like in the 9th inning, that hey, this guy just tested positive, and I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean he just tested positive? Okay, so and Brees, we talked about this today. Like, if you have a high school kid or middle school kid that wants to do conditioning or participate or play or try out, they have to have a physical and it has to be cleared. Okay. Shouldn't Major League Baseball have had, hey, everybody on both rosters, they all had negative tests, including all their coaches. Now let's play ball. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if he had an inconclusive test, I mean, obviously he's a huge cog in what the Dodgers do, and they wouldn't have won it without him. They wouldn't have even be in the World Series probably without him. But if you're going to have a protocol, then if it's inconclusive, so you're telling me that an inconclusive test is like a negative test, is basically what you're saying.
Well, and here's the funny thing is that I don't know if you know this or not, but actually Justin Turner tested positive in the 2nd inning. Or the test came back that he tested positive in the 2nd inning, and they apparently did a quick test, like rapid test, and so it was actually 2 positives from what I heard. I don't know if you heard this as well.
No, I was unaware of that. What I heard was that he had his initial test, and because the tests have to be sent to Utah, it was inconclusive. And he had, I guess, had a second test, and that's when it came up, and it came up positive during the game, and it came up positive in the 7th inning. That's when they pulled him out. I did not know about this 2nd inning test.
According to Dodgers knew, from the source that I heard, said that Dodgers knew about the positive in the 2nd inning. They made him take a rapid test again, and then it was verified, I guess, in the 6th inning that yes, it was positive. They were hoping that it was a false, test.
False positive, yeah.
False positive, yeah. So obviously, and then the post-game celebration ensued, and there you go.
And I love Justin Turner. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, he's been one of my favorites. He's the all-time leader in hits. He's the all-time leader in RBIs in Dodger postseason history. Granted, there's been a lot more games. He passed, in fact, he passed my idol Steve Garvey for most postseason home runs in a Dodger uniform. And I love the guy, and I understand you want to be out there, but you got all your teammates and their wives and their kids. And I mean, let's not forget Dave Roberts, who's a cancer survivor, and he's sitting right next to him. And Roberts doesn't have his mask on, and neither does Turner. So I know he wants to celebrate. I know he deserves to be out there, but I think you've got to maybe use some common sense, and there's a protocol in place for a reason. So that's a bad look, man. I think he's going to start 2021 with some sort of suspension. And I don't know how long it's going to be, because nothing like this has ever happened. So what are your thoughts in terms of how long should the suspension be?
Well, obviously, it's probably going to you're right. There'll probably be something, but I think it will be based on a determining factor of maybe how many people were, in fact, do come up positive. Um, it's like robbing a bank or taking $200 versus taking $2 million. Is Justin Turner gonna affect one person, or does he affect the whole team? Uh, and he's very lucky that there was not a game 7.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
So
exactly. Because here's the thing: what if he gets Walker Bueller tested positive? We're we're not celebrating. I mean, seriously. I mean, seriously.
I think
He's
he
in.
would find,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
he would find the first one-way ticket, unfortunately, probably to the Cleveland Indians.
Listen, he'd have to do more than that. He'd have to go into WITSEC if he did that, if he had done that. I mean, because Dodger Nation would go crazy if he did that. But
The
anyway,
only thing that will save him is if the commissioner, he gave it to the commissioner, and then he's a fan favorite.
yeah, exactly. And let me tell you,
Oh man,
speaking on that, and I can't believe I didn't get any movement on that tweet that I put out there. And I can't believe
you
that
didn't at Donald Trump or at Joe Biden.
yeah, I know I didn't. And it was one of those things where he honestly, Rob Manfred, when he presented the MVP trophy to Corey Seager, I honestly thought this guy's intoxicated. Either that or he has like some sort of like speech impediment that I never knew about because he couldn't get his words out. He sounded like Joe Biden at a debate. I mean, it was bad. It was almost like I felt sorry for the guy, and I don't like the dude, basically because how he handled the whole Astros fiasco. But anyway, that's probably for another time. But let's get to kind of some of the game itself, and we get to our next topic. It's Kevin Cash, young manager, um, the only guy, and I don't know if because I know you didn't watch the game. He's the only guy to play in a Little League World Series, a College World Series, and manage in the World Series, which means he's a baseball guy his whole life, right? So the situation, Blake Snell, who was a subject of one of our earlier episodes, who had concerns about playing during COVID, correct? You remember that episode that we had
Yep.
earlier in the summer? Um, he's absolutely dealing. I mean, absolutely dealing. Dodgers are completely off balance. They can't get any good swings, can't make any contact. Through 5 innings, he'd struck out 9 guys, 1 out in the bottom of the 6th. The number 9 hitter, Austin Barnes, singles to center. Immediately, he had thrown 73 or 74 pitches at the time. Immediately, Kevin Cash comes out of the dugout and pulls him and brings in this Anderson guy who had been great in the regular season, but not great in the postseason. I think he had his ERA was like over 5.
Yep.
Brings him in to face Mookie Betts. So Snell gets pulled. Snell against the top 3 Dodger hitters, Betts, Seager, Turner, up to that point, they were 0 of 6 with 6 strikeouts. And you pull him. You bring in Anderson, Mookie Betts, doubles. Now you got second and third, 1 out. Seager comes up. Wild pitch. Now the game's tied. Betts to third. Next, now they bring the infield in to gun down the run at the plate. Betts, such a great athlete, has great instincts, great reaction time. Like a 2-hopper to first base who's playing inside the bag, and they can't throw him out at home. They go ahead, and then Mookie puts the cherry on top in the bottom of the 8th with a solo shot. I know hindsight's 2020, and Kevin Cash is looking at Snell's ERA, which in the first 4 innings, which is basically 2 times through the lineup, his ERA is under 1, and after that, it's like 7 something. So I get that he's looking at that, but listen, you've been a baseball guy your whole life. You've got to know that your guy is in the zone. Okay. And I'm not saying, he's got a 1-run lead. So all he really had to do was focus on the hitters coming up that he had dominated up to that point. They were completely off balance. If I'm Blake Snell, I was, and you could tell, and he voiced it, and they had to sort of shadow it out on all the highlights, but you saw it live. If you watch the game, you can see what he says, and it's not pretty when he gets pulled. And I would have been upset too, because I don't think that's the right move. I think Cash needs some criticism for that, because you've got to have some faith in your guy and realize, hey, it's a single up the middle by number 9 hitter. His bat ran into the ball, basically.
All right.
I just feel like that opened the door. And when you pull a guy, when a guy's dominant like that and you pull him, every hitter on the Dodgers is like, wow, we got him out of the game. Not how we wanted, but he's out. I
Yeah.
mean, so it gave him life.
Yeah. All right. Here are my 2 cents. One, you talked about it. Kevin Cash, he feels like Snell, third time around, he was going to struggle, right? Here's the kicker, right? Mookie Betts. The guy had been horrendous versus lefties.
Yeah.
Horrendous versus lefties all season. What does he excel at? Right-handers, fastball. I mean, the guy was batting like, I saw a stat, he was batting like 380 when the righty fastball guy was coming in. I mean, he was
Yeah.
just ridiculous. So Kevin Cash, he just played right into the best player of the Dodgers, in my opinion. Here, you gonna beat me? Go ahead. I don't know what he's thinking, but I do know this: if you're a Rays player, you got to lose a lot of faith. I mean, despite, and again, you guys in the baseball world, you're all about the numbers, right? And
All the analytics and all that stuff, I think, is killing
sometimes
the game. I think it's killing the game.
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back from it. Do free agents want to play with a guy like Kevin Cash, who goes by the book, whoever thinks it? I feel like I was watching Moneyball, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the thing too, and you know, okay, his numbers are what they are, and you need to make a change. But if you're going to make a change, Anderson's the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Okay, he's the wrong guy to bring in at that point. And so that besides the fact that you took Snell out, not only did you take Snell out, that's mistake number one, but you brought the wrong guy in for him, which is mistake number two. So those are both on him. Now, I'm not complaining because, as you see above, we're the champions. Okay. And so, I mean, that whole Dodger bench was like, oh, yeah. I mean, we can hit a fastball. I mean, when Snell's throwing 97 and then he can locate his curveball and slider, you got no chance. Now you got this guy. Shoot, we got a chance now. So, yeah, Kevin Cash he got some splaining to do. A lot of splaining to do. All right, so next one. Now this is interesting. Okay. Word out of Clemson, South Carolina is that Trevor Lawrence is contemplating coming back for his senior year. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that the Jets are 0-7. And I don't think he wants to play for the Jets. All right. So what do you think about this? And is this just gamesmanship by Trevor Lawrence?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the dude is serious. It's another Eli Manning situation, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know, if Trevor Lawrence does decide he comes out, will the Jets be able to use that at stock and trade him, right? And it's I mean, listen, Sam Darnold, I don't know if he's your franchise answer, but he's going to get you by. I don't think Sam Darnold is your problem, is what I'm trying to say. If you're a New York Jets fan, I think
Yeah.
you got more problems, more fish to, uh, uh, you know, it. One, I think it starts with the head coach who nobody likes,
Yeah.
and then it can just go from there. But you know, what the question is, what do you do? I
Yeah,
mean,
and again,
first of all, franchise quarterbacks are hit or miss, right? I
oh,
mean,
absolutely.
so who knows? But I think you could get a lot. I mean, I'm thinking maybe you can get 2 first round. If there's a team that has 2 first rounders, drop out of number one. Who knows?
If he stays in the draft.
Right, right.
Okay? And yeah, trading up to get him, trading up to get that number one, if you're the Jets, because you got Darnold, and in his defense, he's got nobody. They traded away their best receiver, Robbie Anderson. You know, Le'Veon Bell didn't work out, so you got no running game. So, I mean, he's really got. They traded. Jamal Adams was unhappy. He's gone now. He's balling out in Seattle, and it's the coach. I mean, I think the coach goes before Darnold goes, and you gotta have a good coach that guys want to play with and want to play for. So if they end up with the number one pick, yeah, they could deal that pick and get some help on defense or get some offensive weapons for Darnold. Because I don't think Darnold, like you said, I don't think he's the problem. He's had some health issues um, and things of that nature, which has maybe slowed his development. But I mean, he's what in his like third year now, fourth year. I mean, he's not a rookie anymore, so that there's no excuses there. But yeah, and another thing too. I mean, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he's the man in South Carolina. I mean, he's the man. Like so, that's pretty tempting to just want to come back and be the man for a whole other year. It's waiting for you.
Yeah.
I mean, so and they'll be dominant again next year. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. All right, so next one, Big Ten. Well, you waited, you waited, you waited, and you waited so long that now you got no room for error. You got no margin for error. And guess what? Wisconsin's quarterback tests positive. So now you've got a game that's completely canceled and is not going to get rescheduled. And that is throwing the Big Ten. That is messing everything up. What is your take on that?
Well, not only is it Wisconsin's quarterback, it's their third string quarterback, right? And their
Yeah.
fourth string quarterback just got tested positive. It couldn't happen to a nicer group of people, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much to the Big Ten for just having a tremendous wherewithal to just wait and be patient. All of a sudden, everybody wants to jump in. Wait, the Big Ten's left behind. We're losing lots of money, Big Ten. We better jump on this. Hey, Wisconsin, probably one of the better Big Ten teams. They have no shot of getting into the BCS playoffs if they were even tried. And now you're talking about a one-trick pony, possibly two, but I think Michigan is overrated. But again, when bad things happen to bad people, it just can't happen to a bunch of nicer people.
and the Big Ten at this point is like, please, all our chips in the table. I'm all in. Please, Ohio State, don't lose. Okay? Because that's all they got. I mean, that's all they got. And they looked good, but they looked good against the Nebraska team that was outmanned. Okay. They're still going to have to play, I think, Penn State, Michigan game will be a decent game. But they'll probably go undefeated. And they'll probably be in the top four. So it's probably will end up happening, barring some, like a collapse against Michigan, or Penn State maybe beats them. And that I think is that this weekend, Ohio State, Penn State. I think it might be. So that'll be an interesting one to see. But like you said, I totally agree. Couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of folks up in the Big Ten, because everybody down here in SEC country, we know they're overrated anyway. They like to toot their horn a lot. But, how many titles does that conference have in the last decade? One? Okay. So there you have it. All right. Enough said. All right. Moving on. Sports superstitions here, Paul. And I don't know if you have any or had any. growing up. There's a lot's been documented. I know, you got guys. I know Wade Boggs was one baseball superstition. Baseball guys are really superstitious. Wade Boggs would eat chicken before every game that he played. Okay. Now I never did anything that I was that locked in, to doing that sort of thing. But for me, it was like when I played baseball, it was like my socks. My socks had to be a certain way when I was playing, and maybe that was just my thing. I know kids that have not washed their socks when they get on a winning streak, okay, and they wear the same dirty socks for 6 games in a row or however long the streak lasts. Um, so my question to you is, what are your sports superstitions, or maybe the strangest ones you've come across?
Well, I don't know if I had any superstitions per se. Um, I do remember when in Little League, I always ate a like a mini Nestle Crunch bar before every game, and it just seemed to you know was one of those things that I had to have, right?
Yeah.
But I guess the guy that I not I looked up to as far as the quirkiest person in the sports superstitions realm was Turk Wendell, right? Baseball reliever for the
Yeah.
Cubs. The guy jumped over the chalk as he
Yeah.
went into the field, left the field. He would eat licorice as he was pitching, and then the crazy thing would he would brush his teeth, uh, you know, in between innings. So if you ever caught him, you would see him, with a toothbrush, just either in his mouth or I don't know. But that guy was an odd person, and that's always something that just I could remember just being like, what in the world is he doing? But I definitely understand why he did it, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it's part of it's his Nestle Crunch bar.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess, and sometimes, like for me, like this postseason, okay, I guess my superstition was this. Um, I did not watch, even last night. I did not watch any of the games in real time. I did not watch any of the games in real time. And
Right.
thank you, YouTube TV. I did not watch them at all in real time. I used my ESPN app, and I would look to see what the score was. And if it was like last night, it was 1-0 Tampa Bay through the middle of the fifth. Well, I knew it was okay, safe for me to watch the first 5 innings. Then when I watched the first 5 innings, then I would take another peek. Oh, it's 2-1 Dodgers. Okay, it's safe for me to watch until the middle of the eighth. And so I watched up to that point. And while I was watching that segment of the game was ending. And I got the text, or got the email or whatever, and I looked at it, and it said Dodgers 3-1. And I just, all the weight was lifted, and I was like, I can watch this, I can enjoy it. And I do the same thing with Kentucky games. The same exact thing. So that's my superstition. I'm always a little behind. So that's what I do. But anyway, so sports superstitions. Now, I got a topic here that's hidden, Paul, and it's just for you.
All right.
And it's going to magically appear here on our bar. Boom. Because I know you love this stuff. Okay. Because we were talking about this the other day. Like, man, we have all these great tweets, some sports tweets. I had a bunch of great ones about the game last night, the ceremony after, and Rob Manfred, and all this stuff. And I guess that was your response to the former lead singer of Skid Row, right? Sebastian Bach.
That's correct.
Yeah, who had some sort of tweet about, Trump wants to shut everything down and Biden wants to open it up, and your reply to that, hey bud, I think you got it backwards. And
In
people
a
love that.
nutshell.
Dude, people love that. So I guess my question is, what is it? I mean, of course, you got a major presidential election in 5 days. So what is it about the political tweets that just seems to get people wound up, man?
And big time wound up.
Whew.
I mean, you talked about it. I think we both have tweeted out stuff that we feel like is pure gold, and we can't get any traction no matter who we tag, what we hashtag.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I replied to this one thing about, you know, Sebastian Bach, who, you know, some people may or may not know, but just because it was political, all of a sudden people are coming out of the woodwork throwing their 2 cents in. And then you say something today in a reply tweet, and it gets some crazy traction.
I know.
Man, people are wound up and they cannot. I listen. I can't wait for November 3rd. Well, actually, probably more like November 4th, right?
Well,
Um,
it may be.
and it could be longer.
Listen, it might be the Monday or Tuesday after.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're talking about all these mail-in ballots that are out, and people talking about, oh, well, the mail is running slow. Don't expect. I'm like, seriously. So,
But
yeah,
yeah,
it's, it's going to be interesting. But like you said, people just they get like just totally sideways with this stuff. And what's funny is, you know, I mean, I think it's pretty. I think you can pretty much count if it's somebody that's talking about opening up the country, they're Republican. If they're talking about being, closing it down and doing that and being super conservative, then they're about opening, then they're Democrat. I mean, that's pretty much the line. I don't know. All this other stuff. It seems to be. I don't know how true it is. I don't know. I
right.
don't know who to believe. Like what the one that I mentioned the other day. The one that I replied to. This was a guy he's like a sports guy in Atlanta, I think, reporter or whatever. And I basically was just like, his I guess his original tweet was basically about, said, put aside all your political biases. This is what at Fox News does. Anybody who works in or cares about journalism is disgusted by it. If you're good with that, fine, but don't be deluded by the news part of their name. And it was a post, or is a story that Fox News ran. Um, and this guy, Bobby Lewis, tweeted, says Fox News represented this person as just one suburban mom and freelance journalist voting for Trump. The fuller story is that she's a former Senate Republican staffer, a former lobbyist, and has many opinion bylines at the Daily Caller and Fox News. And so my response to that was, thanks. I'm sure Democrats have never done anything like this. And it just, dude, it got everybody fired up. And people were replying and ripping me and all this sort of stuff. And, it, it's like, even the guy that wrote it was like, you can certainly try and find examples, but there's no argument of Fox News being the most biased of all news channels. So you're getting both sides. Um, and, you know, and people were doing it in both sides. And it was just, you know, it's crazy what people, the, I guess the emotions that it stirs up, it's just really emotional. So for everybody,
Absolutely.
but, anyway, so that's going to bring to an end another great episode of Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul. Check us out on Twitter at D Through Sports, and also on our YouTube channel, Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul. So for the wrestling coach, basketball coach, golf coach, father of six, and president and acting president of the Jerry Garantano fan club, Paul Brees, I'm Adam Freeman, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. You've been listening to Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul.